this panel is about sibling relationships. We'll be discussing rivalry. We'll be discussing favoritism, like everything, family, sibling, fights, everything. On my panel today, we have Alima, Bello. Well, let me start from the beginning. We have Asha, Bello. You all know Asha, especially from that episode. Yes, so Asha is the founder of Cheeky Monkey and also Accra Parent.
Yes.
And then we have Alima Bello, who is the founder of Bello Edu, which I'm wearing right now. And they are both in Bello Edu, by the way. We also have Norvisi Sokpe in Don, right? Okay. She is the founder of Vision with V. And then also you're a researcher.
Yeah. Well, I work in a corporate, so yeah.
Yes. But Vision with V will be coming out very soon. So yeah. And unfortunately, we don't have Bernard Sokpe here, who is Norvisi's brother. You saw on the video. He is known by the name Meister. So unfortunately, he couldn't make it because he's out of town. But we'll discuss regardless. Okay, so let's start with Norvisi. First of all, Norvisi, I think I met you on Instagram, isn't it? I think we met on Instagram. Yeah. And then I don't remember how we sort of transitioned to where we are now, but I just remember you randomly saying, "Oh, you come and visit the studio." I think so. What happened in between? Did anything happen? I don't know how.
No, so I think that I think the very first time we met, it was at Labadi. You did some work for the company I work with.
So really?
I think we had like a random chit chat.
Okay.
And then I went for it. And then later on, we did something related to work and LinkedIn and one of those your life.
Yes.
And then I came in the studio.
Yes.
We had a private.
Yeah. 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 So I actually loved your page on Instagram because I think at the time you were sharing stuff about like the wedding vendor industry and and I loved how open and honest you were being and you were sharing people's feedback. And I think, you also got some flack. You caught some flack for some of the things that you were doing, but I loved that you were standing for something. And to me, I was like, this is someone that I would want on the show. And then let me move on to Asha before I come to Alima. So we move on to Asha. Asha, I think it was after COVID. I think it was, no, it wasn't after COVID. It was before COVID. I enrolled the boys at her swim school. Yes. And then after COVID I think that's when we started interacting. No, during COVID, 2020. Was when we were interacting online. Then we did some IG lives together. And then, it was just like, we realized we had a lot in common. And then we're just, and Asha keeps it real. Like, she's naturally funny. Like, she just keeps it, trust me, she keeps it real. I don't know, I don't know anyone's impression of her, but I think do people think you're stuck up? People do think.
Stuck up?
Yeah, because I think you mentioned that people think you're like you're a bit standoff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One or two.
Yeah, and then so we've done some work together, and so to me, I knew she was going to be on the podcast. Mm-hmm. Then we move on to Alima. I met Alima after I launched this space. We were hosting pregnancy class this year. Well, not pregnancy, sorry. It was a pregnancy class. Yeah, it was because you were pregnant at the time, and we had one discussion. I don't know if you remember, but you randomly just started talking about like the fact that everyone thinks you're uptight.
Yeah.
And your sister is very laid back. So when I met her, I was a bit confused because they had the exact same voice. And I was like, if I close my eyes, like I feel like I can, Asha will be in this room. Like it was the same voice. But then I realized she was totally different. Like just calmer, just... just like really chill, like just calmer. And then I think during that class, we're just discussing a lot of things. Like, like you're becoming a new mom. So I think that was what sparked that conversation where you were talking about the fact that you're seen as uptight, but then it's how you were raised. Mm-hmm. At the time, I always knew I would have a podcast, but I didn't put everything together. So that conversation actually stuck with me. And after I put everything together, you were one of the ones I put down. I was like, no, I would want us to talk about this, especially because Asha had also mentioned that she had no idea until you started talking about the fact that, you were raised differently. She thought you guys were all raised the same. So where's this from? And I was like, okay, we have
uptight for no reason.
there's a reason. So yes, so to today's discussion, we're talking about sibling relationships. And so I want to start with you, Norvisi. Your name, I actually went and asked around and I realized your name it means little sister. Or what does it? Younger sister?
No, I think it means unity. Hey.
Hey.
It means unity, but I think, the word Novi means like kind of like sibling.
Oh, yeah.
But then when you add the C, I believe it means unity. Because it's like togetherness. It's like brother, sisterhood, kind of. Who's Ewe here?
I thought
Ewe's.
What?
Do you get what I mean? Novi on its own means sibling or friend even.
And then the C.
But when you add, I don't think you can translate it like literally. But it's like being together with your, I don't know how else to explain, but kind of like sisterhood or like unity.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
C means?
Yeah, that's what I know. That's what my grandma said.
Okay.
It's like togetherness.
Okay, so
Sisterhood, brotherhood.
because the driver, the driver's liked me. He told me Norvisi means little sister.
No, I think. Well, I don't know about little sister, but I think Novi.
Okay.
I'll ask. We'll ask.
Okay.
The next live.
Okay.
We'll give you feedback.
So in my mind, I was like, okay, that would make so much sense why you were seen as little, because it's 2 years apart. You and
Right.
Bernard are 2 years apart. So 2 years isn't enough for him to see you as that young. So where did that come from?
Yeah, I feel like it's a him thing. Thank God he's not here because we're about to slander him. I think it's a him thing because in my family, I was seen as very impenitent.
Okay.
So even though I was the youngest, my mom has stories for days about how you sometimes wouldn't even be able to tell because of how I'm I want something, I'm going to ask. And then the boys are just sitting in the corner. If they say, go and ask me, I say, go and ask yourself. That kind, I was always that very impenitent child, right? Yeah. I think that it was more of a him thing.
Okay.
He's not here, so I can say that's also something that has to do with ego, right? He can't defend himself. But I really think so.
Should come closer.
I really think so. Because again, I have an older brother and he also treated me a bit like a little sister. Mm-hmm. So, with all the pet names, my siblings used to call me my Vissy. It was one of my favorite pet names, which was like my little baby. But on certain things, or when it mattered, or when I felt like I was a bit grown, he wasn't really treating me that way. Okay. Whereas my style was always felt like, you're a small girl. I know more than you, Yeah. So I don't know where it came from. But I think that it was more of a him thing. It could also be a personality, just the way that he is as a person.
Okay, interesting. Okay. So let's move on to you, Alima. You and Asha are also 2 years apart. Mm-hmm. So they're 2 years apart.
Okay.
Yes. Why? What did you want to say?
I just thought the gap was bigger.
No. Okay. Why?
I don't know why. I think maybe it's your personality, because Asha is very and Alima is very very composed, and there's a certain aura of I'm older than you, not in a bad way, but it's I'm the voice of reason, and Asha is just let's have fun.
Yeah.
So I really thought the gap was a lot bigger.
Yeah. So. Watching their episode, did you see any similarities? Do you feel like you treated Asha like she was a much younger sibling?
No.
Okay.
I saw some similarities in their character, but then not because I didn't get the chance to treat her like she was way younger. No. Number one, our parents didn't even raise us that way. So it was actually weird when maybe a family member will come to the house and they'll be Alima, on no pain. She will ask what do you mean? We're equals. Our parents treated us as equals. It was never, the only time seniority came in was you're the oldest, you protect your sibling. That's it. But we weren't raised to feel you're the voice of reason because you're the oldest. No. We weren't raised that way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And how about you, Alima?
Asha.
Did you ever feel, oh, this is my older sister, like she's supposed to protect me, like she's, you know, like I'm the younger one, I should be babied a bit, or like, you know, things like that? Confess.
Honestly, these are things that, again, I didn't think about. Like, I've always felt like I'm my own person. I don't need someone to protect me. I don't know. It's just not something that I ever thought about.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, she had her way. She tried to assert herself sometimes. But as to whether it worked, she would have to answer that question. Like, she would do, I think I mentioned this in the podcast, where she'd do this thing where we'll be out in public, someone's trying to do something, she'll be giving you eyes. I'm just like, what's that about? It's like, it's not working. Whatever you're doing, it's not working. You know, she tried sometimes to be, you know, like calm and collected. And maybe we're acting crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never paid attention to it.
Yeah. You know, it's actually funny because I was being interviewed once with the Gifty Auntie, actually. And she was talking about the fact that, you know, she's from a different generation. And raising her daughter, she tried to do the old school thing of like giving her daughter the daughter was beginning, so she was like giving, and the daughter was, Mommy, what's wrong with, like, she was so confused. Yeah. And she's like, she felt so silly. So, I mean, you saying that, because for us, it worked.
Yeah.
Like, it worked. Like, that's why.
Mom still gives me those eyes.
Does it still work?
I think somehow, like,
Yeah.
even though I'm like, oh, please, you can't tell me what to do, I'm grown up. Just gives me the bombastic side eye. I'll just arrange myself. Like, because even though I'm old, I'm still a little afraid of.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I'll just.
Oh, and by the way, I just found out recently your mom was following Truly Talkative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she went to watch it.
Okay. Okay. So we'll come to that. So yeah. So what was the reception like from your family, from your friends? The episode.
First of all, my big brother was like, hey, the number of people who have tried to follow him since then. Like, so I sent him invitations, like, since, like, when the episode launched. And my mom, I think that the conversation I had with my mom was really interesting.
Okay.
Because usually my mom can get a little defensive when we talk about our childhoods. I told you that.
You told me.
Like, we always have to tell her that we get your reality, but we also had our reality, and the two can be, those both stories are valid and are true. Mm-hmm. So she usually gets defensive, but this time there was a certain humbling. It was like, wow, is that really what was going on? I felt like it was mixed feelings. Like she was a little sad, but also happy that we didn't go like completely wayward. And then I think she was also happy that we acknowledged that on some things she was right. But I think she was very humbled because she was like, wow. And then she started trying to explain, even like, okay, I don't know if she would be okay with me saying this, so let me just skip that. But she started trying to just explain why some of those things happened. Now that she's had like the time to like think back that, wait, where did they get this from? Or this person who came to our house, so she tried to like explain so that she gives us more context. So I said, Mommy, you're not a bad mother. It's just that, yeah, these things happened. We ended up like not being like bad children, but yeah, these things happened. So I feel like it was humbling for her and also very eye-opening. Yeah.
Alima, how about you? Like, did your mom watch the episode, or what was the feedback like from even friends and family?
Did Mom and Dad watch?
No. So my dad was in town on Friday. I don't know what it was. Maybe I told him we were coming to record the live, and he's like, what did you guys do? And they were like, oh, we're just talking about, like siblings, the weight of the firstborn. He was like, oh, okay, download it and send me the video. I want to watch it. So, I mean, my dad, he won't take offense. If anything was said that wasn't positive towards him, he would actually take it as a learning moment and be like, oh, really? Did you really feel that way? Because recently we were in Kumasi. I took my kids to this hotel, my uncle's hotel, where we used to swim as kids. Mm-hmm. And I actually almost drowned once when I was maybe 13.
Okay.
But I never told anyone. Because when I came, I was like, if I tell, I can't go back again. So I'm not telling. I didn't tell. So we were there with my kids. My dad was like, oh, how does it feel to be back here? I said, do you know I almost drowned when I was 13? He was like, what? And I said, yeah, KK, like our cousin, actually jumped in and had to pull me out because I was like struggling at the deep end.
Wow.
So it really bothered him. When we went home, he was like, tell me more. I said, I almost drowned, finish. He said, so why, when you came, why didn't you tell us? I said, if I told you, you'd be fine. But if I said anything, my mom would have been like, you're never going back there.
Yeah.
So I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Kept it to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how about you? Like,
My parents, quite honestly, they have to ask me what's going on in my life for me to give the information. I don't give it. I don't know why, but I don't offer it. So if they ask them, they'll know.
Yeah.
My mom, I'm sure if you gave her the video, she'd probably cringe. Like she said, my dad would watch, and actually, if he asks any question, he will come back and have questions if he does, and actually try and explain himself. But it's all love.
Yeah.
And then Sharif watched, right? Sharif said he had a good time, our brother.
brother,
He said he really enjoyed it. Friends who got in touch with me, well, they know me. They know me and they know us together and they know her. So everybody was like, oh, we didn't expect any less. This is very true of your relationship. You guys keep it real. So it was all positive. I nenever got any kind of negative feedback.
Yeah. Because I actually remember you commenting saying, "Oh, I didn't know we're this funny."
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, it was. Because it was. Yeah, that episode. Yeah, I loved a lot. Yeah. So with you, Asha, now that you know the story, you know Alima's story, and saying that because you said, you know, you had no idea this was happening and all that. Did you do any introspection? Did you?
Don't put it on me. What did I do?
Yeah.
Is it off? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Did you do any introspection?
No.
No apologies, nothing.
Apologies. Dr. Carol. Please come. I mean, was I supposed to apologize for something?
Yeah, what would you be apologizing for?
I mean, like, you know, so there were things that there were things you shared growing up, right?
Yeah.
Where, you know, you spoke about, oh, like when it's time to clean, you know, you would, things like that. And even talking about your relationship with your mother and just how different it was, and, you know, hearing certain things. I don't know if you had anything new for the first time on the episode, but did you feel like, okay, like I think I was like a terrible younger sister? Because you even mentioned using your sister at some point. I know your relationship is
She
much
doesn't
better,
mind.
but no, she does.
Honestly, I don't. So the relationship Alima and I have, this is the thing. I feel like we understand each other to the core, and I mean down to the heart. Okay, so whatever I did as a child, she doesn't hold it against me because she knows my heart. You know, when it comes down to it, did I do it out of malice? No. So that she doesn't expect an apology, and I'm also not going to give one. But yeah, I mean, I don't think do you expect an apology?
No, so what would she be apologizing for? She was a kid. We were kids.
Yeah.
She took advantage. It is what it is. We're here. You see, it would have been different if that kind of character traits she had grown with them and I was experiencing them now.
Right.
Then that would be a problem for me. But to be honest, I actually don't hold grudges.
Okay.
I'm just that kind of person. It's simple. It's very simple. We deal with the matter. Either I erase you from the face of the earth, or we forge ahead. It's very simple.
Yeah.
And when we're kids, like she said, we were kids. So what was she supposed to do? Second born, she found a loophole. So be it.
Yeah. How do you guys get to a point, like, because you even mentioned the fact that growing up you guys weren't getting along. How did you get to a point where now you were bonding? I think we had a discussion outside of the podcast where you said your relationship only started to get better. I think it was university, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you guys get to that point where now, you know, you could stand each other and like...
Can I say something? I think when I was growing up, I also felt like she was very judgmental.
Okay.
She didn't know anything about me. I wouldn't tell her anything about boys. I wouldn't tell her anything because I always felt like she was like a second mom-ish sometimes. Because she wouldn't say much, it's just that look. That peering through your soul look, you know. Oh, I'm not telling her, she's not my friend, like, you know. But then when I went to university, I think that I stayed in her room for a term or something like that.
Yeah, for a semester.
And I hung out with her friends, and I was like one of them. And I think that's where we actually started to vibe, like proper. We never used to hang out. She had her friends, I had my friends. But it happened in uni.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things I actually want to add is the fact that you said at some point you bonded with another friend who was also a firstborn. So was you guys against them or something funny like that?
So when I went to boarding school, my dearest friend, Gabby, we became friends because she was also a firstborn child, had a secondborn who was very much like Asha, like found a loophole, you know, do stuff. So that's how Gabby and I became friends. And even saying, when she's talking about hanging out with my friends in uni, it started from Holy Child. When she was in Form 1, she used to come to our dorm, and everybody in our dorm knew, all the other Form 3s knew, you don't mess with Asha Bello. Look, if she's the last Form 1 girl in the house, don't call her.
And that's because of you.
That's because of me and my friends. So even before I would get to the dorm, Gabby or Nanaya or somebody else would have checked another person, like, why? Why are you looking in her direction? Yeah. Looking elsewhere. She's a no-go. So she used to cause trouble and run. She would come and eat in our dorm and leave the plates unwashed. She used to cause trouble. So it was always like that. And I think, yes, in uni we started hanging out together. But like I said, I don't hold grudges.
Yeah.
I've always had this ability to work through what was my role in this? What did I do? How do I want to be treated? Even if it was terrible, okay, what lessons are we walking away? I have very little regrets in my life.
Yeah.
So it actually goes through with all my relationships. So that she's my sister, she's my ride or die.
Yeah.
So she can come and abuse me today and say something that she's not supposed to say, but nobody else can touch her.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, I love that. And moving on to Norvisi. Because you also mentioned that at some point you felt that Meister was judgmental, and then he also felt the same way about you.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
I was so shocked. I mean, I think with our relationship, aside the fact that I find it's only 2 years, so we have that, but we also had the gender, I feel like the gender dynamic takes it to like 6 years on his side, where he feels like, I know more than you because, you know, I'm a boy. And again, in the time we grew up, there was that gender dynamic, like, you know, boys get away with everything they do. My mom was a feminist. And a feminist, but she would let her boys get away with a lot of things. And then you, as a girl, you can't do this, you can't do that. So I feel like there was always that sense of feeling of superiority from his side. Superiority in terms of how much I know about the world, how much I can guide you, how much I know about the streets.
that he mentioned. And then there was also the age thing. So it just made things a lot more complicated because, like I said, you're not having the same experience that I am having, just existing in a place like Ghana as a girl, right? And you just feel like you know more and you know how to guide me because maybe there are bad boys out there and I'm one of them, so I know more than you. So there was always that thing. I don't feel like I was judgmental. I feel like, again, I had stopped sharing with him, and so he didn't really know what was going on in my life. And sometimes when he comes to tell me things that he's up to, or when I hear about things that he's up to, which were sometimes very scandalous, I would just, you know, look at him like, hey, I don't think I would ever say, why did you do this? Rarely. Because again, I don't want you to come and tell me, like, I don't want you to come and try to tell me what to do with my life. So not that if I even told him, he would have listened, right? But I think maybe because I wasn't really sharing my opinion. I mean, once in a while, if he asked me, Mom dear, I will share my opinion. And then it would seem like I'm being judgmental, you know. But for the most part, I didn't think I was being judgmental until he said it that way.
But how did you guys get to a point where you like repaired your relationship? Like you started to bond?
So we've repaired. I mean, let me just be honest, right? Like, we still have disagreements, like even this week. Like, and I think it's, a lot of it is also personality. because for me, sometimes he behaves in a certain way that I just feel like you too, you know. And then sometimes he also doesn't understand me, and so then, you know, because of that, we would clash on certain things. But yeah, like I feel like she said, the person is your sibling, right? So it's one of those things. You're not going to throw your sibling away, no matter what, right? It's almost like even if I'm upset with my sibling, and someone says something about them, I'm like, hey, like you can't talk about my family like that. Like, you know, you can. It's almost like how Ghanaians and Nigerians are always fighting, and then if someone else comes to their mouth, they're like, who? Like, if you're doing Ghana jollof as Nigerian jollof, there's some Sierra Leonean. I hope there's no Sierra Leonean. I'm just saying my jollof is better. Like, who called you? Like, you know, I feel like it's a similar situation. Yeah. Whereas like we can have our issues, but if someone else comes to put their mouth in, we're like, hey, please.
Yeah.
Talking to you.
No, the gender thing is actually true. When you said it, I realized, okay, because the brother after me, we are 1 year, 3 months apart, and at some points I started to feel like he was much older than me because he would get away with a lot more. Like, oh, he's a boy, he's this. Yeah. Like, you know, when it's like talking about like social events and stuff like that growing up. Oh, he can go, but you can't because you're a girl. You know, so I think it's different because of the gender. But now on the topic of favoritism, we'll come to you, Asha, but on the topic of favoritism, you guys actually, Bernard, who is my star, actually mentioned the fact that he is a favorite. And that was the first time I've ever heard a child actually admit that, oh, yeah, I was a favorite, like I know. And you were surprised.
No.
Oh, okay.
I was not surprised, my sister. Because I've been saying this for years. And my mom was just like, you're so jealous. Okay. She's pretending like, oh, like, you know, just like banter. And, you know, every time I'll try and give her example, I'm like, Mommy, I actually don't care whether you like it or not. It wouldn't change my life, but just admit, own it, say it with your chest that he's your favorite. Yeah, no, he's not my favorite. I'll give you an example. I remember a couple of years ago, I don't remember why, but he was coming to our house and he brought a lot of papaya. And there was only one fish. You know, like papaya fish.
Yes, really good.
And then it was for my mom, but she just didn't feel like eating papaya at that time. So I said, Mommy, can I have your fish? No. And then she started going on about how, you even, if anything, you should have even gotten up and cooked, blah, blah, blah. And then I say, oh, Mommy, just give me the fish, just fish. It will even go bad. She says no. A second after, Kafi has gone to the washroom, so Bernard, sorry. He comes back and he says, he's looking for which one to pick. And he's like, oh, Mommy, this is yours, but is it okay if I have the fish? Oh, of course. Wow. Like, Mommy, before she realized herself, and I can give you like so many examples of time this has happened. So that day he started laughing because he was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been saying. Like, I don't remember a time that like my mom, the way she treats him, it's always like, oh, yeah, my son, like as if you sound helpless. My baby, like, if I come and tell my mother that I don't know what, like, think of the most scandalous thing, she'll just say, oh, he'll be fine. Yeah. But like, she would literally call me and sometimes say that, Kafu is going through, like Bernard, he's going through a lot right now. I said, yeah, let me give you an example. Even when we both lost our jobs, we both work in the same company. We both lost our jobs. Yeah, she'll call me and say, you know now, because he's lost his job. I'm like, me too. And then I start looking as if you want attention. Yeah. You start looking like that child who's always like, me, I'm here. Like, so I mean, the favorite, it's been like that all our lives. Like, and I've been saying it for years. Like, but again, the gender dynamic is there, right? Because my other brother moved to the US years ago. So at some point, it was literally just the two of us, right? So it would sometimes seem like, oh, you know, because he's a boy, right? I remember there was a time that we both come from work when we started working. I think that my work was like more difficult. I started working at an agency. It was like really hardcore. He was working in Vodafone. Everything was like, you know, super nice. He would close and then wait for me and we meet up and we go home. When we go home and he's like, Mommy, then he lived at home. Mommy, I'm hungry. And then my mom would be like, hey, my son. Then she'll tell me that, go and make something for your brother. And I'm like, why? Does he have, like, he doesn't have hands. Yeah. Then she'll say, hey, a girl. Kind of, instead of your brother is hungry. Like, by the way, it's like 9 p.m. Like, I'm tired. I went to Nhyira today. Do you know how I'm tired? And he's like, and this, like, again, he was working at Vodafone, so it's like, very fancy lunch. He's probably buying like some nice breakfast from some cafe, And then you're telling me that I should go and cook at 9 for him. Because she's like, but if I ask her that, oh, mommy, I'm hungry, she'll tell you, and girl. The fact that I'm coming to tell her that she's hungry, am I not shy? Like, do you get it? Like, if I'm hungry, as a girl, I should get up, go to the kitchen, go and look for some cabbage or something, and make something. But if he's hungry, oh, my son, as boys, my mom is like, oh, boys, they can't, there's a term up to now, even with my husband, she's always like, men can't stand hunger. I said, humans cannot stand hunger. Like, do you get it? If men can't stand hunger, so women can stand hunger, So there's always been a gender dynamic which has made her hide behind the fact that I love all my children. Even when she's saying it's like, you don't really know. Yeah. I love all my children equally. I'm like, mommy, that's not true, So I've been used to it,
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to move to Asha, but let me move to Alima. Did you feel that there was any form of favoritism happening in your home?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And so who was the favorite?
I mean, I said it on the podcast.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't think my mom liked me.
Yeah.
So Asha never got questioned.
Yeah.
Asha actually argued with my mom. She would say things that I could only dream of saying to my mom. And she would get away with it.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's coming back to say, oh, but you are dad's favorite. Everybody knows today you're still that. She would say that.
Right.
But then I grew up in my mom herself in her adult years said, Asha said, putting the blame on her. Like, okay, what did this young lady do? Okay.
Yeah.
So now it's on you as a mother owning up.
Yeah.
You're blaming the child.
Yeah.
But now do I think they're favorites now? I don't know.
Yeah.
But growing up, that's how I felt. Yeah.
Asha, did you feel you were the favorites?
My mom's favorite?
Yeah, your mom's favorite.
I think my brother was my mom's favorite, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
That's why I said I've never heard anyone admit that they were the favorite when they were the favorite, apart from Bernard. Because if you admitted it, I would be shocked.
Because I'm not.
No, but she might be right.
Okay.
Because it'll still be that same, gender dynamic. It got to a point when Asha was when I finished uni, Asha was still in uni, and Sharif was in uni. Sharif was in tech. Our house was not far from Bomb, so Sharif was in what was the name of the hostel? Ivandi. His mother used to cook for him every day. And
I like how you said his mother.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yes. And sometimes what we had for dinner was determined by what Sharif wanted to eat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
Him and his friends.
Yeah, him and his friends. She used to cook for so Sharif was in uni with 2 of our cousins. So which meant she was cooking for juniors. Sharif and Junior were in the same room cooking for them. And then there was Nana Fredua. She was cooking for all of them. All of them. Yeah.
wow.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
They had a
But
good...
but and just like Norvisi's home, being girls, were you asked to maybe do more chores or cook for your brother? And he was the last born, wasn't he? Yeah. So were you asked to do things for him based on your gender?
Well, we should come to think of it. You've just asked a question which has just struck me because I just realized we used to do hand wash on Saturday mornings.
And he never washed.
Yeah.
He never washed. He
I know,
never
we had to
swept.
sweep.
He
Yeah.
never dusted the windows. And it was lover blades, right?
Yeah.
And every Saturday you're supposed to do that with soap and water.
Yeah.
Sharif never did. True.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you just realized that now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He never did.
What's the age difference between you two?
Two.
Oh, interesting. But apart from that, it wasn't something that was said, oh, he's a boy, so that's why this, or, you're a girl.
Younger, right? Was he younger?
Yeah,
He was the youngest. But did mommy ever say anything about making reference to him being a boy? I don't think so. She never did. It was just, Shay was untouchable.
Okay. And there was, no reason.
But then I guess, I don't know, it's weird. My mom used to go to Cape Coast every week to go and visit him in boarding school.
Okay.
And Sharif also talks about how we, like, when we talk about it, he's like, but you guys, Daddy used to show up for you guys, and he, like,
Which is true.
which is very true, on an odd day. And he will tell you, Daddy came to visit me maybe once. So I'm sure he also feels,
Like the man.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we're in uni, every Thursday, our father was on campus. I mean, at some points, we begged him to stop. And he said he wouldn't stop. And then, so I'm sure if we're to ask my brother,
He would also
yeah,
have.
he also have his own issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I feel like what you're saying is interesting because for my mom, like I said, she was a feminist, so she's trying to make it equitable. So even like with the house chores, she's sharing the work in a way that seems equitable, right? But the point is that if they don't do it, the backlash is different. Like it's not. Do you get it? So they
Yeah.
will get away with not doing it or doing a very sly job, not doing it well, and you know, even if she doesn't say it with their voice, it doesn't matter. You get most of the backlash, and there was always a thing of, you know, at some points, like even one day, I remember my grandma one day said, "Hey, you continue with this behavior, your husband," she used to say that, like, your husband would leave you, no husband. And then one day she said, and I said, you did all of it and your husband still left.
Oh my.
Hey, family meeting. So a very big family meeting. My grandma was very pained. Asked me to apologize. I refused to apologize. That was the last time any of them. Like,
old
I'm
were you?
talking about family. I think was I a teenager then? I don't think so. Maybe like 11.
Wow.
This was like a big family meeting. Like I came back one day and like my mom, my dad, like uncles, like, and my grandma was upset that I need to apologize, and I said no, and I don't like that. They shouldn't say that to me.
Yeah.
Right. But again, like. I think I was just very frustrated with the everyday you're a girl,
Yeah.
and even at that, like even when I was really young and I didn't know anything about like feminism, I just felt like something wasn't fair, right? Because why do we all go to school, come back from school, and the boys get to sleep, play basketball, play video games, and I have to be sitting on some steps in the kitchen like the child called it. Like I really didn't. It didn't make sense to me, right? Because I felt like, but they eat too. Like if they can't eat, then surely
Can clean.
They can, yeah. They can even, because I wasn't really cooking. I was, for a while, they'll just send me on errands. So they can do the same. Why do they get to play? Right? So for me, I feel like I didn't even talk enough about that because he spent all the time listing my exes. I mean, the cooking part, I feel like I still have PTSD from the cooking part. So even now, if like I don't mind cooking, I'll cook like just as therapy. Like, okay, I'm just cooking for fun. The moment someone says I have to cook because I'm a girl, I'm a wife, I'm an anything, you're not eating for 2 months. Like it's that bad. Like it's because I grew up feeling stuck to that identity of as a girl you have to cook because if not your husband is, as a girl this, as a girl you have to be in the kitchen. So it's like I have a like physical like PTSD. Like the moment someone says, even online or if I'm talking to someone like a colleague and they say it's a woman's job to cook. Hey, my God.
Yeah.
Like it's a problem for me, and I think I also have to see that because it's something I feel I have to bring. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I have to eat. My kids would have to eat. My future kids would have to eat, right?
Yeah.
But and I think my husband has learned in almost 2 years of my own. He's learned the very hard way that the moment you say something that makes it look like it's my job, it's conflicts for. So I feel like that's also a part of my childhood. And I mean, I get why my mom did that then. But I still think that the way they went about it was a bit too harsh for the girls. So most of the girls I know, even like friends, I don't know, like I don't really know of any of my friends who really love to cook. The ones who really love to cook, they weren't cooking as teenagers. Do you know what I mean? Like their parents just didn't let them do it, or because we had help as well, but my mom still made us do it. But those who really like up to now, they're like, oh, I'm making this, I'm making that. Trust me, they didn't cook any bangu when they were 14 or 13. So I feel like their experience was different. That's why they are not traumatized from that whole girls have to cook thing.
I like that.
Sibling relationships are so crucially important because even developmentally, right, they serve specific purposes, right? That's how you know, a lot of social skills are developed with your siblings. As a child, you come into the world just not knowing in terms of interacting and, getting along with other people, figuring out your place in the world, figuring out your place in a group. And, sibling relationships a lot of times is where a lot of that development happens in terms of social development and even some cognitive development, right? So it's a crucial relationship. But once again, it's one of those ones that we don't get a lot of guidance around, right? It has to be a process that, is guided by the parents. Like, parents have to determine the kind of relationship they want their children to have with each other and kind of like be the person who facilitates that relationship. Because a lot of times with family, we think if it's not intentional, there's going to be a relationship anyway, right? Your family, you are together, but actually, some of the most toxic, harmful relationships you'll find are within families if there isn't a certain level of intentionality. So I loved the fact that, a lot of the conversation was also about thinking about how, we as a generation are parenting now and sort of bringing that level of intentionality to bear. You were saying that you hope or you wonder what your kids will say about you. And it's crazy because, in psychology, we believe that there's no way to escape that, right? Because your children are actually smarter than you. Scientifically, right, the human brain is evolving.
Okay.
Right, for reasons that we cannot necessarily control, right? Our brains are evolving in terms of things that our brains can do cognitively, information processing, all of that stuff. So there's this theory that no matter how well you parent, right, because you're from a different generation, by the time your children get into adulthood, there would have been something you were not able to give them. Because there's a bit of a gap, right? So a lot of times we'll tell parents that you can't really be focused on, will I do this perfectly to the point where my child won't have anything negative to say about me or won't end up on a therapist's couch. But sort of like just be focused on, like you said, giving every child figuring out what every child needs and kind of like parenting them in the way that they need. Because there's this phrase that every child gets a different parent. Like no child in a household gets the same parent. And I think obviously you were saying it's usually because when parents are parenting, they are also going through their own stuff. And so there's a lot of evolution that's happening with them. So the way they show up with one child is very different from the way they show up with another child. But I think the danger is a lot of times they are not even aware that that's happening, right? So because if you have the awareness, then you can mitigate certain things, but they don't have a certain awareness that that is happening. But to your question, let them fight. Just give them tools to fight fairly, right? Because fighting, knowing how to fight, in the human experience, you can't escape conflict and fighting, right? And there's been this traditionally. There's this. I don't know if any of us have heard or we've heard this before, that it's not good for your kids to see you fight as parents. Right? Don't fight in front of the kids, right? And that's led to a generation of people who are scared of conflict and conflict averse because they grew up sort of like not seeing conflict and not getting a sense of, okay, conflict is a part of the human experience. You can have conflict in a healthy way and then there can be resolution, right? So it's more about, instead of getting them to not fight, teaching them how to fight fairly. Because fighting also teaches us certain things, how to assert ourselves. It teaches us sort of like how to, our place within a group. It teaches us how to stand up for what we believe in. So, and a lot of times when you break down their fights, that's what's happening. This did this to me, and this wasn't fair. And they're sort of like trying to be heard, trying to be validated. So it's more about how do I give them the tools to fight fairly versus I don't want them to fight at all. Right, and then I think that there was a second question.
I think.
So that this one doesn't feel like mommy likes. Because usually because it's a boy and a girl, sometimes when you're telling the boy and you are accommodating, but the boy is extremely emotional. Understand? So I want to balance it off. So that it's not like, mommy likes, I tell you better than she likes.
I also feel like that's a bit of a losing battle, right? Because I think it boils down to what Eno said, figuring out what each child needs and trying to give them what they need. And sometimes what that means is that it will look different from child to child. we do believe that across board, though, there are certain things that every child needs, regardless of personality, regardless of birth order, right? Things like just respect. And in our culture, we don't believe that children deserve respect, but they do, right? Because it's a basic human need, right? Respect, protecting their dignity, creating space for them to be heard, to be seen, to be validated, for them to express themselves. There are certain things that are cross-board every child needs in order to be able to develop. But once again, based on personality, how those needs are met may look different, right? Or may require different things. And so it's a really hard job of figuring out how does this child differ from this child. And even though I want to be able to show up in the same way for them, I need to kind of modify how I do it based on them. I think that has to be your focus more so than the worry of, I don't want one of them to feel as though, I like them and I don't like them. Because anything driven by fear, we kind of tend to mess it up because we're driven by the fact that we don't want this to happen versus this is what I want to happen, right? So stepping back from that fear component and maybe just admitting that there is a possibility that, I think at different times, and I think at different times, one person will feel as though mommy likes me more than no matter what you do. But I think if you stay focused on what do they need versus what am I afraid of in terms of what will happen, then I think you kind of have a better chance. Because the parenting is not a perfected, it's not, I don't think there's any perfection in parenting, right?
Yeah.
Most parents, and there are very few parents that are outliers in terms of we're talking about psychopaths, right? Yeah. Who most parents are doing the best that they can, right? And I think it's okay to allow that to be enough.
Yeah. Okay.
So that we're not driven by fear.
Nice, thank you, Pastor Nhyira. Yeah, but
I think so strange that they could share perspectives.
Yes.
yeah.
I once again I agree with everything that Dr. Carol is talking about. I think if we look at how God parents us, we'll be able to also parent well. And so when she's talking about if I look at myself, right, and I look at my personality, I look at my husband, I look at his personality. If you should ask my husband, how do you feel God talks to you? It's totally different from how I feel God talks to me. And I think it's because God knows us and he relates to us based on how he created us in a unique way. And I think there's this story of a man in the Bible called Manoah. And Manoah was the father of Samson. And so the Bible tells us that when the angel comes to him and tells him that God is going to bless him with a son, Manoah prays. And he prays and he asks God, what is your rule, or what should be the rule of this child? So what he's asking God is that you have created this being. I'm just a caretaker. You know him. He's just a gift you've given to me. And so if I'm going to parent him and I'm going to raise him, I have to go back to what I was talking about, the one who created him. If when I'm dealing with my kids and I literally don't know what to do, I'm like, God, they are yours. Literally. Me said, I'm trying to figure out. So help me figure out what they are going through. I don't get to that all the time because there's frustration involved in parenting with girls. But I think that once we get to that space of knowing that they are a gift to us, there's someone that loves them more than we do. There's someone that knows them more than we do. Then we can go back and lean on the wisdom of God. And that can help us. But that is together with what she is also talking about. It works hand in hand. I think that the moment that we start taking, whether it's therapy or whatever, out of it, then it becomes very difficult. Because God has given people the tools to help us do what we do. And so even when parents come to me, couples come to me, I'm always stealing therapeutic, stuff and adding it to what I do. And it just helps build a better you. And so that's how I see parenting. Yeah.
Okay, I love that. Thank you. We really have to wrap up this panel session and then swiftly move on to the next one. This time you're not stretching because it will waste time. So yes, thank you so much.